Welcome back. Hey, Charles Woods here with us.
Peace and blessings to the real black family.
So we're gonna get into some mini lectures and all that good stuff. But this is the first time I've seen you since COVID.
Yeah. As soon as this is over, I put my mask back on.
Yeah, you're very heavy duty about the mask.
Yeah,
Very
yeah,
serious about it.
yeah. Well, I'm older than you are, and I got a lot more issues.
That's true. Yeah, you got to be careful. So, but I brought you some presents. Um, Kino Lorber had a sale recently, and I know we talked about the sale, making a little noise here. But just want to make people aware of some of these new releases that are on Blu-ray. I know a lot of people don't collect movies anymore, but I know we talk about these. I just wanted to get your feedback on some of these titles. So, is that okay?
If I remember them well, because let's see how the brain is working.
Okay, all right. So the first thing we got for you is Pool of London.
Pool of London. This is a film that for a long time I wanted as part of my study on interracial romance in motion pictures. This was a British release, and it goes down in history as one of the first films in which an actual black man was paired opposite a white woman in a romantic setting. But the fact this was what, Ralph, 1951.
A little bit later, but let's see. You might be on the money. 1951.
1951. And the thing is, they still had to be very cool because that kind of sexual tension was still something that was taboo. And so, for the most part, what you had in the film was this developing relationship between Earl Cameron's character and I forget the actor. I think it was Susan Shaw.
Susan Shaw, very good.
Susan Shaw. Susan Shaw. Um, she was respectful. She didn't make an issue of his color, but you could see there was some trepidation on his part. But I thought for the time, it was great to see, and we lost Earl Cameron not too long ago,
Right.
but he was recognized as England's black Sidney Poitier. So it's an interesting film. They're just um, a background characters. The main character is someone else with the stories about, and but Earl Cameron is someone who's always portrayed very respectful characters. That's why he was always likened to Sidney Poitier. But it's a film that's an interesting piece. It was well received by the critics, and I liked it.
Yeah, it's directed by Basil Dearden, who did was it All Night Long,
All Night Long.
which is another seminal British film. It features Charlie Mingus and some other. It's like a jazz movie. It's on Criterion has that one. But this is a good disc. It's got an interview with Earl Cameron, who I think lived to age 99 or 100.
Yeah, yeah.
And like Charles said, he's considered the British equivalent to Sidney Poitier. He was the first black leading man.
And one thing that's interesting about Bearden's
Mm-hmm.
All Night Long was another film in which he dealt with the interracial sex taboo, and it's an Othello themed film. Um, I'm trying to think the guy who played Danger Man on TV.
Okay.
He was in that and like doing the ILO part, but it was good.
Cool. Well, speaking of jazz movies, well, this is has a jazz soundtrack. The Connection, Shirley Clark.
Shirley Clark's The Connection. That's one. These films are for the longest were very difficult to get. In fact, the only way anyone who wanted to study these films, they had to rent them. We had to get them through the rental houses, through colleges would rent them from the local rental houses. The Connections one I have never seen,
Okay.
so I'm looking forward to this. But what's unique about it, those who loved Superfly, you've got this is Shirley Clark's film, right?
Mm-hmm.
Shirley Clark, and someone who helped her with the dialogue and coaching in the film is my man, Lee, the son of Kanata Lee,
Okay.
who from Superfly.
Okay. So we'll check that. We'll check
Carl
that
Lee.
one. Carl Lee. So yeah, this is part of a reissue. The only one missing so far is Cool World, which is still not available. But the rest of Shirley Clark's Over was released through Milestone Pictures, which is distributed by Fox Lorber. So
May I
yeah,
add something to that?
sure.
I just mentioned Carl Lee. Carl Lee was in Superfly. He was uh, the second in command. He was working with Priest. What's interesting, when he did Shirley Clark's Cool World,
Mm-hmm.
here's a bit of interesting film trivia. Carl Lee in Superfly, he was working with Ron O'Neal's character, who was playing what?
Priest.
Priest. In the Cool World, Carl Lee's character was called Priest.
Small world. Cool world, small world. And the connections. The connection is they're waiting in a drug house to get their fix. This is an heir of heroin, so based on a play. Also from that series is Portrait of Jason, which is I believe it's in the National Registry at this point, and it's a early queer movie.
Well, yeah, that's one of the significant things about Portrait of Jason. I've had it a long time, never watched it.
Mm.
So to see it on Blu-ray, I've got different types of copies of it,
Right.
but I've never watched it. But from a film perspective, is one of the earliest films to deal with homosexuality.
Yeah, basically, this Jason is a sort of a flamboyant, I can use that word, character from New York, and Shirley Clark basically put him in a hotel room and had him just like we are, and just had him talk all night. And they changed reels, and after 3 or 4 or 5 hours of conversation, they made a 90-minute movie out of it. And what's interesting about this one, the featurette includes like outtakes from the film and where they are now. And recently, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, there was a film that recreated in color the exchange between Shirley Clark and Jason. So it's considered a landmark of cinema, and that's Milestone Cinema and Oscilloscope putting
And
that out.
from the outset, you had mentioned the fact that what we grew up on is we wanted to have a book, encyclopedias and things like that. And space-wise, people are not into these things anymore. DVDs replaced beta and VHSs and lasers. And now you can go to a store and find it very difficult to buy a DVD.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
so,
almost,
if anyone's seen Portrait of Jason recently, TCM's been carrying it quite
Right.
often.
right. And a lot of these movies are available streaming. A lot of them are not. But these were all from the Kino Lorber sale that happened recently. The Balcony. You've been telling me about this one. This is one I haven't seen yet, but you've been telling me about this one for years. John Jeunet.
I saw this years ago, The Balcony, but when Mike said this sale was on, and he said, anything here you want, I said, get me The Balcony. And the reason why I wanted The Balcony is a guilty pleasure. Ruby Dee, who's always been like the black American sweetheart, who's appeared romantically with Sidney Poitier in at least 6 or 7 films. But in this film here, she is so provocatively sexy. It's just, I said, just to see her in this outfit and what she's doing, she's got this guy going crazy. It's worthwhile. But the film also was well received.
She's playing a lady of the night. Is that the
Well,
story?
sort of, yeah. But the thing it takes, you have this mock courtroom, and you have these different fetishes that are played out, and for one of the characters, Ruby D is someone who satisfies this character in a sexual way, but it's nuanced where there's no sexual intercourse. It's just a fetish thing.
Okay.
And but the outfit she's got on, her look, because of the kind of roles Ruby D played, many people fail to see just how she's a gorgeous woman.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, I agree. Daughters of the Dust, the classic. Now, this is in the National Registry for sure. This is Julie Dash's landmark release.
Yeah, Daughters of the Dust. If Julie Dash doesn't do anything else, she'll go down as history for what this film represented, the response to it, and it's interesting what trajectory her career had after this. Many people felt she should have gone on to bigger and better things, or to much more things. You know?
Right. More like, we're also sort of like Haile Garima after he did Sankofa. We expected there'll be 5 more Sankofas.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
this stands in and of itself. Daughters of Dust, about the Geechee culture in the islands, the Sea Islands, off Georgia coast, and Arthur Jafa is the cinematographer. You haven't seen this yet, have you?
No, you know,
It's hard to get.
I've started it.
Uh-huh.
It's been fitful. I start and
Yeah, it's an acquired taste for sure.
yes,
It's something. Watch your mic.
yeah,
It's an acquired taste for sure, but it's beautifully rendered on Blu-ray. It's a great restoration. It's something that I think belongs in everybody's collection. Losing Ground is another black woman filmmaker, Kathleen Collins, who died tragically of breast cancer about a year after this movie was released. And it was considered not a lost film, but it was out of circulation for over 30 years until it was re-released on Blu-ray a couple years ago and got a theatrical release, which we attended.
yeah. This brings back the big screen experience we had watching it, and it's a film that once again, if anyone's had the opportunity to see it, the respect TCM has been given lately to a lot of the
That's true, yeah.
films of color made by people of color, and the interesting thing also about this film is the male star, known for his writing, and also for a film he did, Ganja and Hess.
Yes, Bill Gunn.
Bill Gunn. He
From
did
Philadelphia.
yeah, he was the guy who did the screenplay for The Landlord.
Yes. So it's a piece of history right there. Oh, another Philly connection. Trick Baby, which we constantly reference. I didn't even know this was on Blu-ray, but it is.
You know,
It's part of
this film wasn't a great film.
I love it.
It's campy.
Okay.
It's maybe a cult classic, but it's one of the films that if you mention blaxploitation, and when I did the piece, we did the mini lesson on what blaxploitation could have been. Many people felt, oh, here now if blacks are putting out blaxploitation films, maybe we can get a lot of the Donald Goines novels done, Iceberg Slim's novels. You know what I mean?
Right.
But the only thing we could get connected with Iceberg Slim is
It's Trick Baby.
Trick Baby.
Yeah, until years later, I think Ernest Dickerson or somebody made a Iceberg Slim movie in the 90s.
But it's interesting. But it was also called The Double Con. Was another name for it.
Yes.
Yeah, and once again, it's another film where you could say it's a film that dealt with passing. You know, but what's interesting about this film is how anecdotally there are a lot of things in history, a lot of incidents in history where the light-skinned blacks were used to infiltrate, to get information on what the man had in store to keep blacks oppressed.
Right. So yeah, the double con. You got white folks and blue, and they're basically hustlers. And white folks who is actually he's a trick baby. His father was black. His mom was a prostitute, and they go on these different cons. But they have 24 hours. I think it's been a while since I've seen it. I think they have a night to get some money back that was lost.
Well, what happened is they were so slick, but they pulled a con on the wrong person. It was an older guy, but he was the father of someone in the underworld.
mob,
yeah. So there's get that money back, or the fact that you took something from my day, your life is in danger.
Got it. All right, this one I've never seen. Golden Needles, Jim Kelly, Joe Don Baker. What can you say about that?
Golden Needles is what's interesting about Golden Needles is the fact that you had Jim Kelly in it. But Jim Kelly, I'm going to be honest, Jim Kelly was someone, if you listen to Jim Kelly, he felt he should have been bigger or more respected because he said his films never lost money. And what's the purpose of making films if you're not going to make money? But Jim Kelly couldn't act. He was so wooden. In fact, there's one Western where they don't even have him speaking. He plays a mute.
Take a Hard Ride.
Take a Hard Ride.
Yeah.
Right? But he was so wooden. But the thing is, this was an attempt to bring in a black actor because black actors with blaxploitation was big for Hollywood. It helped save Hollywood. And then when blaxploitation, when they were coming out where we don't need to be the focus on black folk so much, what they were doing is absorbing some of the blacks. They would become more or less like sidekicks. So you had this attempt at what I call the crossover. They bring in a black. He has a sidekick role. And many people felt, well, you know, why you want to do that to the black brother? Why, you know?
So this is later stages of blaxploitation, like 78, 79.
It's an
74.
It's around the blaxploitation era.
Okay.
But blaxploitation is something that was dying late 74, 77, it was dead, 75, 76.
Okay.
But I tell you, another guy who's very popular is the star, the white star,
Joe Don Baker.
Joe Don Baker,
Yeah.
because of
Sheriff.
Walking Tall.
Yeah. Buford Pusser. I'm sorry, wait. That was Golden Needles. This is Devil's Express. Warhawk, Tanzania. Looks a little scary. Horror film. Code Red.
Devil's Express. When I had the 43rd Chamber, the shop in Manhattan, I had a number of the clientele were martial artists, and they'd come in, and this was a cult favorite, but it was very hard to get. The copies that were out there weren't that good. But I had a guy, he just kept beating me up. Every time he would come in, Woods, did you get that film, The Devil Express? But Devil Express with Warhawk, Tanzania, and this thing is something that's an acquired taste. It's cult, but it's terrible.
It's just not a good flick.
No.
Okay, so for completes only? Is that
Yes.
what you're saying? Like,
Yes.
like just don't jump on this one unless you know what you're getting into. And it's Code Red, which has a dubious honor of their stuff goes out of print without any warning. So when these are gone, they'll probably be gone for a long time.
But the key word you use is completist.
Completist,
Yes.
yes.
But what used to kill me is these guys who all of them had like some championship belts and whatnot, but doing all that kicking with back in the day, we had to wear those high heel, what we used to call platform shoes that you see advertised in the back of the Jet magazines or in Ebony Eleganza, and the big afros. Because one of the things they used to say back in the day with black exploitation, you had Afro Max and Zodiacs.
Yeah.
But this is like you say smoke a blunt or get you something to drink and just something to goof for.
Force 5, was that the other movie that Warhawk was a part of? That came out from Code Red and unfortunately wasn't part of the sale.
But thanks to Code Red for investing some money and because good, bad, or indifferent, this is something that, being a completist, a lot of times you couldn't get anything were it not for the fans. And fans, the word of it is it's short for fanatics.
Right.
When I had the shop, the 43rd Chamber, we would have conversations. These were fanatics. I'm going to do a thing on a salute to Kung Fu and the introduction of blacks in Kung Fu and their contributions in Kung Fu.
That's great. Nationtime, this is another movie that was hard to get for a long time. It was only available in a 1-hour version from William Greaves. You had to rent it as an educational thing. And they found a longer print of it, and they restored it last year. And have you seen it? Have you ever seen it?
No.
So it's a time capsule. It's the Gary, Indiana had a political convention where they're going to set a black agenda, and Harry Belafonte, Amir Baraka, I'm trying to see who else was there, were all part of it. Well, let's see who's on the cover here. Dick Gregory, Charles Diggs, Walter Fauntleroy, Mayor Richard Hatcher, Isaac Hayes. So this is the only filmed record. There's video footage of this convention, but this is the only filmed record. William Greaves, who's a great documentarian who passed away maybe a decade ago, made this film with his son, David. And it unfortunately came out during COVID theatrically, so it didn't really get the same type of fanfare that it would have normally gotten. Had something that had basically been unseen for 45 years that has a political bend like this that would have come out at that time would have gotten. But I think it's well worth seeing. I think it brings more to Greaves over. He also previous to this he only had a couple other movies on home video: Symbiopsychotaxiplism, Take 1 and 2, and Ali the Fighter, or the Muhammad Ali documentary about the Ali Frazier fight. But hopefully this is just the beginning of bringing more of Bill Greaves' work to home video or to the.
I did a panel discussion with Bill. We became acquaintances. I had a film that he appeared in, and he needed it to go overseas to discuss it. It was Lost Boundaries. Mm-hmm. And he said, I'll take it and I'll have it restored and whatnot. Next thing I know, he didn't want to give it back. Mm-hmm. So we were going to make some deals. So the thing is, what he couldn't do in terms of a lot of, let's say, films that were dramatic, he got into the documentary part of it. Mm-hmm. And he had a great inventory of films about historic figures. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to get a lot of those in exchange, but things came up where I got caught in one thing and it never happened. And when I learned that he had passed, it was upsetting. We were with his wife not too long ago, where she was there to discuss his work. But William Greaves was someone who always carried on the tradition of trying to bring to film authenticity to the black representation.
Right. Yeah, there's a great documentary on the symbiocytotaxiplasm DVD Blu-ray from Criterion where he talks about his career. He, as you said, he was a actor first in race films towards the tail end of the race movies, 1948, 49, 1950. He acted in a series of race movies. He wanted to get behind the scenes, and the only way he could do that was to go to Canada, where he was worked for the National Film Board of Canada for like a decade, and then he came back to the States. He made a lot of great documentaries about Pan-African events, different things that happened in Africa. Movie called From These Roots, different things like you said about different black historical figures. Frederick Douglass, I think we have a Frederick Douglass movie by William Greaves. It's on the channel. And then Nationtime is part of his body of work as well. So
Yeah.
Definitely check it out. And the last thing we have here is Lost in the Stars, which for a long time was out of print on VHS, and then it came out on tape, and then now through Kino Classics.
Who's the producer of that?
The producer, Eli Landau.
Who? Eli Landau, right?
Yeah.
When I was with the Black American newspaper,
Mm-hmm.
they sent me to interview Eli Landau. Eli Landau, I go in there, I believe it was in Manhattan, and he had a brother come out, shine his shoes and whatnot. And I wanted to get some information on pawnbroker, because one of the things that was a lot of people took issue with is the fact that the pawnbroker helped to get this nudity issue resolved, where they said if the nudity falls in line with the storyline, you just can't say it's strictly exploitational. So I'm questioning them on that, because Thelma Oliver in the pawnbroker, she exposes her breasts. But there are scenes in Pawnbroker where you see a white woman's exposing her breasts as well. So it got to be political, the conversation. So he said, well, enough about that. Let's talk about what you're here for, Lost in the Stars. Lost in the Stars was part of a number of things he wanted to do, was to put on film great stage works that he said, it was his idea, that of a lot of the Broadway plays and stage productions were beyond the capacity of average Joes to be able to go see because of the cost factor. So he figured I could bring these things through film, these great works.
Right. The American Film Theater Network. It was a series. Once a month, you could go and see these movies in theaters with I believe it was a subscription rate.
Yeah.
Like you'd buy a subscription, and then each month there'd be a new adaptation brought to theaters for you.
Yeah. So this was, you could say, was the token black piece,
Basically, yeah.
you know. But this also is another iteration of Cry the Beloved Country.
Okay.
Okay. So.
It's musical.
But this is a musical, yeah. Because, you know, if you're going to sell anything with blacks, I guess you got to have some music with it, huh?
Right. So it's a Kurt Weill, and it's Brock Peters.
Brock Peters. What's his name is in that, right? Clifton Davis?
Melba Moore, Raymond St. Jacques. I believe so.
Clifton Davis, because Melba Moore, just a little side piece.
Yeah.
I was out with Melba Moore and.
Oh wait, I thought you were saying that Melba Moore was a little side piece for Clifton Davis. They had a show together.
They were. She loved him.
Yeah.
She was head over heels, and when they broke up, she was devastated. We were out, and the guy we was just talking about.
Eli.
No.
No.
Who had the TV show? He was very short. He wore these very high heels.
Okay.
You said he did White Girl.
Oh, Tony Brown.
Tony Brown.
Okay.
And Tony Brown was there, and I think Tony Brown went to say something to Melba, and Melba was not having it.
Okay.
She was so broken up over this thing with when they broke up. She and Clifton Davis. A lot of people may not notice, but one of the biggest hits Clifton Davis had was, you know what?
The That's My Mama, no? Or Never Can Say Goodbye?
Never Can Say
You
Goodbye.
talk about it as a songwriter.
Yeah, maybe that's what happened with Melba. She but those were the days. Those were the good old days. But uh, that's some of the things that particular film brings up for me in terms of my past, having going out to interview a number of these people and getting to meet them and
Yeah.
delving into what it was like being black in Hollywood, trying to bring authenticity, representation in these films, and it was difficult. Still is.
Yeah. Well, shout out to the few Blu-ray companies that are still out there putting out new releases. Kino Lorber being one of them. Some of the ones that we didn't get in this batch were recently released that were part of the sale. You had Jazz on a Summer's Day with Louis Armstrong. That's on Blu-ray again. Or Blu-ray for the first time. It was on DVD for a long time, went out of print. Man Called Adam.
Man Called Adam.
Same thing, Sammy Davis Jr.
And you asked me, did I want Man Called Adam?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, Mike, I'm trying to think about his pockets, and he's so gracious. But I said, well, I have a Man Called Adam on DVD, but A Man Called Adam, there's so many things unique about that. But right quick, 1966, Sammy helps produce this. And I was telling Mike, Ike Jones was one of the first black producers that was used on A Man Called Adam. And Ike Jones went on to do A Woman Called Moses and River Niger. Now, many people want to say, well, he was like one of the earliest film producers. A lot of people forget Harry Belafonte and how independent he was. But what's unique between Ike Jones and Harry Belafonte, there's this connection. Harry Belafonte, who was he was your first real independent black producer for mainstream films. He did a film, The World of Flesh and the Devil, with Inger Stevens. Now, Inger Stevens was known to fall in love with her leading men. She had strong feelings for Harry. Things happened on the set. That was being cool. But secretly, some years later, she married Ike Jones. And it was kept on the down low. The only person that would come out and confirm that Ike Jones was married to Inger Stevens, I believe it was Inger Stevens' brother, had to confirm that that was true. That's how taboo it was and how they wanted to keep it so secret.
Undercover brother.
Yeah.
The real undercover brother.
Inger Stevens, by the way, she used to have a TV show.
Swedish blonde.
Yeah, gorgeous.
Gorgeous.
I believe it was the
Marilyn Monroe
farmer's daughter, I think it was, something like that. Yeah.
The Swedish version of Marilyn Monroe, if you want to put a picture in your head of Inger Stevens. But and Ike Jones also was the first black graduate of UCLA Film School.
Yeah, and one of the things I always point out with A Man Called Adam, 1966, the look of Cicely Tyson, dark, afro coiffed hairdo, something where my hat's off to to Sammy Davis Jr. for saying we're going with it, and for Ike Jones going along with it, because a lot of times what happens is that the images we get of who the stars are, those are decisions that are made on an aesthetic level. And in a society where the white standard plays out, someone like Cicely Tyson with her look, they weren't going to use her. And in that same film, which we showed a scene from. You had Janet Dubois, who, she makes, in her scene, she makes a thing of Cicely's blackness. And then also in the film was one of Sammy's main squeezes, Lola Falana. So it's a film that it's interesting. It's got some socio-political significance to it, but it didn't do well. But it's worth having.
And Anna Lucasta was the last one on the list. Kino Lorber releases. So.
Well, that's another film with Sammy Davis and the actress whom they used, because on stage this color thing, we're going to do a thing on colorism, but on stage you had Ruby Dee at one time did one of the when they do these traveling things, but Anna Lucasta was basically, it was written for white characters. Then they blackened it up, and it was a tremendous hit.
At the theater in L.A., they're the ones that put it on. The Lightning from Amos and Andy.
Well, I mean that's late, but during its heyday, Anna Lucasta was big on stage. It was a big hit, big hit, and Sammy, who he became known for womanizing and whatnot. He was chasing Eartha all over the place, but it's a film. Wow. I believe Ike Jones had a little small part in that too.
Okay.
Yeah, a little off the cuff. I maybe I have to check, but Anna Lucasta is unique because of what it did on stage when they started saying, you know what, they weren't like putting a lot of things on stage, but someone said, hey, how about if we make a black version of this? And Anna Lucasta was one of the first treatments where they did a black version, and it was a big success.
Cool. Okay, well, we're just getting warmed up. Like once again, we're back in person, in living color.
Yeah.
And we got more for you, so stay tuned. Keep watching.
Peace and blessings.